Until someone does it for us. I'm sick of you guys complaining. All right, the live's on. Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties there. Yeah, so I got on here. I was actually here like 15 minutes ago because I was grabbing videos and stuff that I wanted to put up today. And this happens a lot when you're doing the show. I had all these ideas last night when I went to bed, and I wrote them on like my notes in my phone, and I'm reading them today, and they're like partial notes, and they don't make any sense at all because I was half asleep when I did it. They were genius when I wrote them down. And then I sat here, and it was 6:30, 6:32, 6:33. It's like, John usually says when he's running behind. And then I actually typed out, hey, can you join at 6:34? I said, no, I'll wait till 6:35. And I'm sitting here. Then I get a text from John. It's like, hey, you on the live yet? Turns out I wasn't in the live the entire time. So, yeah, I guess I was in the wrong link. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. And in case anyone's wondering, we do have volunteer position open for an assistant to do this shit for us because we kind of suck at it.
Yeah, it's the curse of the creatives. John, I was so excited to do this episode today. I could not wait. I was thinking about it all last night because this is a bizarre time. It's so fucking weird. And with the whole craziness with Biden stepping down and Harris just like riding in like Caesar across the Rubicon to like a triumph of support. This is a time that we need to. This is Billy Joel's song. This is the time to remember because it will not last forever. This is kind of how I'm feeling right now. We should all appreciate this moment when essentially everyone left of center is kind of like has breathed a sigh of relief, and we're in like a kumbaya moment. We've put our differences aside for the week, it seems, and everyone is just kind of happy. And this is the most energy I've seen from anything remotely left of center in a long time.
This is the most united I've ever seen the Democratic Party. It is the most energized I've ever seen the Democratic Party. Hell, it is the most competent I have ever seen the Democratic Party. In fact, I said on this show not too long ago that, hey, totally just speculating here, but I would have never been so gung-ho for Kamala Harris if this exact sequence of events didn't happen. And I speculated that if the DNC party leadership was capable of some Machiavellian 3D chess, this would have been an excellent way to unite the party around a candidate that would have otherwise been divisive. I still don't think they're that confident, TJ. No. But I will say it might have all just worked out, and it did take still a lot of things that could have went wrong to go right. But we're sitting here, all of the people who were like, oh, well, Kamala, no, she won't be able to get the fundraising, all Biden's infrastructure. What are we going to do? No, you guys are always either just lying or not caring about being correct, because they just had the biggest day of the biggest couple days of fundraising. Grassroots, by the way, not all big donors, like grassroots. Ever? Was it ever?
It's the biggest fundraising, one day fundraising in history. Yeah, it was the biggest in history. So it is funny.
Add that to Biden's war chest that she gets to inherit.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, so it's funny because we've all been thinking the same thing about the weird like Rube Goldberg machine series of events that just happened for this surprisingly pleasant result. And I don't believe that this is because a lot of people are saying that I know what happened. Like we talked about it before, that their grand plan was to expose Biden in the summer, have everyone shit their pants and then replace him. That is as risky a move as you could possibly make. That's just, you'd be better off just not having Biden debate. It'd be a lot safer. And the competent part. So no points for competence in how they handled Biden. That was terrible. But the aftermath, like military precision. And look, respect to Nancy Pelosi. We should on
Rarely
Nancy Pelosi.
Do we say this, TJ. Rarely is Nancy Pelosi our white knight, but
yeah, my God. Say what?
Credit where credit's due.
Exactly. Nancy Pelosi rose to the occasion as a general. Look, once again, I'm rarely one who gushes about Nancy Pelosi, but one thing that I have always said is she was an excellent Speaker of the House for the party because she was great at fundraising. That's why she got the job. But she was never surprised by votes. She never brought votes to the floor unless she knew they were going to pass. Like, she knows what the fuck she's doing. And older than Biden, I might add. She's like 2 years older than Joe Biden, and she still got everything together. And she got a hold of Joe Biden's chief of staff, who was only giving Biden's positive polls. He wasn't showing Biden the polls that showed he was dangerously close in states like New Mexico and New Jersey, like states that they should have locked up. And Nancy Pelosi said, no, I need to see the data on this. I need to see everything you have. Like, she forced them to hand it over. And then she said, okay, look, you guys got a couple weeks here, or I'm going public with this. So make your decision now, or I'm going to make it for you. It was like, God damn, Nancy, I know you had it in you like that, but yeah, hats off.
It is really funny to see the, we'll call them Biden stands, Blue MAGA, all the people who were in my mentions and your mentions being like, oh, how evil you are for trying to betray Joe Biden, like I was ever a fan of Joe Biden. All of these people are getting a taste of the medicine that we leftists have been just drowning in.
That's funny.
Forever. Because I recognize their complaints. I recognize how they feel. It's how I feel all the time when Nancy Pelosi just crushes every progressive pro-worker movement. But now it's the shoes on the other foot. And you know what? It feels nice to be in these shoes, DJ. It feels nice. It feels nice to be part. And I said this. I said it today. I was just like, we are so used to losing everything, as progressive, whatever you want to call us. And this was the most quick, decisive, successful political movement I have ever been a part of. And it's like a drug. I feel so energized for Kamala now. I'm signing up to like canvas and phone bank for her. Like that's how much this has turned around for me. I don't know about you, but I would have never done that for Joe.
That's the thing, that the not a surprising amount of energy. It's like, you know what? It's not. I was thinking about this all night, this entire thing about how just incredibly energetic everything seems right now. It's in the air, you know, and people were genuinely on the edge of their seat with this Biden thing by summer. And they're like, man, like this guy, I'm sure he can hold on. But then the debate happened and things just started falling apart quickly. And what was frustrating is that you had the people you were talking about saying, no, look, we're riding with Biden. You can't let the guy go. We can't risk this. And I understood the risk part. But the argument that we always made was, look, sure, you can look at polls technically saying he's tied or technically saying he's 2 or 3 behind, but these polls are not going to get better. And then we would tell them, what would they argue? That, you know, the polls, like, we have to just ignore them and stuff. And they're delusional. The delusion just wouldn't stop. And they would accuse you of funny what the Republicans are saying now. Like, how many people in the Democrats did you hear say, we had a primary, we chose our candidate, are you against the will of the people? It's like, have you seen the polls on this? Like 70% of Democrats want Joe Biden to step down. That seems like a better, like, you know, people change their mind when they get access to new information. Kind of weird thing people do.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of
Republicans don't, so I understand why they're confused.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now to see that the Republicans are saying the exact same thing really lets you know who was right the entire time. That now that the Republicans are hilariously saying, well, this isn't fair. You guys had a primary. This is a subversion of democracy. It's like, come on, guys. Like, I appreciate you feeling bad for us, but if you can't tell, we seem to be pretty happy with this decision.
Isn't it weird how the people we call Blue MAGA are making the same exact argument that the normal MAGA people are making? It's weird, isn't it? And I will say, at least of the Blue MAGA people, some of them genuinely did have a claim to feel that way, that their voice was being overridden. And there are, we will relitigate this, TJ. When we're in December and we're celebrating a decisive victory, we will be relitigating how much the Democratic Party fucked this up and fucked the voters over, because the argument that they were undemocratic is correct. It's just Republicans are saying the wrong thing was undemocratic. It was not undemocratic for Joe Biden to step down. I mean, everyone who voted for his ticket in the primaries, Kamala was the replacement if Joe Biden became too ill or died or whatever. and he's 80 something. Like, everyone knew this was a possibility. No one who submitted a vote for Joe Biden in the primaries didn't think, oh, well, it's possible that Kamala might take over here. That was clear and obvious. What was undemocratic was Joe Biden deciding to run in the first place, the DNC immediately coalescing and circling the wagons around him, and not allowing for any debates or any sort of open primary. That was the undemocratic part. But the decision to step down was very democratic. It is what the party and the country in general wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like that you put this that, we're going to relitigate this December, because I need the Democrats to understand something. This is a temporary alliance. Okay. This is an alliance of necessity. And, presuming that, in fact, either way, whether Trump or Harris wins, alliance is over. We're right back to where we were, last year. And I know a lot of leftists might be disappointed in us. On either side, on this. And I don't know if you still know people who was they're still absolutely not voting for Biden or Harris. They can't do it. Okay, I get that. We'll be with you guys soon enough. But I don't know. To me, I just don't see. I don't see how a 9-0 conservative Supreme Court helps our cause or anything. I just don't. There's no world in which more GOP governance and all three branches of government make our lives easier and our socialist utopia one step closer. Which is, it's all out of practicality. That's just what we want to do here. I don't know about you, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this quite recently, and I realized the flaw in the logic, because I get for the never voting for Democratic candidates people, I get what you're saying. I get it. But the only option, if you are not going to vote your way into power and you are not going to change the world for a better electorally, if you're anti-electoral politics, the only option is bloody revolution. And that's A, not going to happen, and B, also not very effective. Nonviolent revolutions have historically been twice as effective as violent revolutions. Sometimes violence is necessary, but you're just not going to be able to get the urge to do that in the richest country on earth. No matter how bad things are for a lot of people aren't going to pick up a gun and go fight the U.S. government. So if you're not going to do that and you're not going to vote, you're just it's the ContraPoints famous quote that she had, where she was like, these people don't want to win, they don't want power, they want to endlessly critique power. And it's honestly very true. If you're not going to do the electoral politics thing and you're not going to do the violence thing, what are you really doing here? You're just complaining online. And okay, go ahead. And if you convince yourself that bloody revolution is the only way forward, that justifies a hell of a lot of awful things, which is why you tend to see the kind of people who actually take that route tend to do a lot of awful things, because once that's the case, everything is on the table. And I just don't want to go down that road, TJ. I think we have better options still before us. We can avoid the fascist dictatorship that would necessitate that, and we should do that up until we can't.
Yeah, it's like the that quote. It says, you talk to a lot of people online and ask them, and they say that their politics are firebombing Walmarts, but they don't firebomb any Walmarts. Okay, then it doesn't really matter at all at that point. So yeah, it's weird. And about this too, what's gotten me is, I'll go ahead and share this right here. What's gotten me is that we were bragging how last week we called this, that Biden and them were holding off on the announcements until after the RNC, and which makes this even more surprising at how flat-footed they seem to be caught by this. That's actually, it's not just that, the people who were worried that, I remember I was out a couple Sundays ago with some people, and they were talking about how they were afraid if Harris was the nominee that, she was a black woman and that they thought she might, not gain her support. And my argument was, look, if a black guy whose name was Barack Hussein Obama could win, I think a black woman can win. I didn't see that was a much big harder sell than Kamala Harris. And And which it turns out, like when she got the nomination, we were a little, oh, she's killed it. She has. Like I critiqued Harris a lot the first 2 years while she was vice president and when she was running because of her stunning lack of charisma whenever she was speaking. But I said, I think earlier this year, she's gotten a lot better. Like her stumps presentations, her interviews, she's a lot more clear. And this isn't just like, oh my God, she's the nominee. No, I've been saying this for a little bit. But what I wanted to bring up was right here. So Donald Trump, once he got wind of this whole thing, we saw this. So we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He polls badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking. And it's stuff like that that's weak as fuck. It is just like exuding this insecurity. And all the Republicans are sounding like this. I haven't heard any good comebacks for this. Like, honestly, at least somewhat predictable outcome. Like, it's like it was at least a 30% chance that this was going to happen, and they weren't ready for it at all, it seems.
Well, yeah, TJ, this is what I've been saying for over a year now, that any competent Democrat should be able to take this campaign to the woodshed, because these are the same people, and I say this over and over again, that booked a vital press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping. I can't stress enough how dumb the other side of this is. It's not that hard to beat them. And in fact, the fact that we've been fighting these people for what's it been? It's been 8 years now?
8 years, yeah.
Is really a more of a critique on us than it is on them, because they're terrible. It's the worst campaign ever, because you're right. This not only should have been easily foreseeable 2 months ago, it should have been easily foreseeable a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, they've known Donald Trump is the candidate for a long time now, and they've been saying he's too old. Like, they've been making this critique. They should have been prepared. But really, I would be more surprised if they were prepared, TJ. The complaining, you nailed it. It's so weak. It's so just, we should be reimbursed by these guys changing the rules. Where? You knew this kid on the playground, guys. You knew you were forced to play with this kid because their mom got upset at your mom for excluding him. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care how Republican you are. Don't lie to my face and tell me that this reaction is not the weakest shit you've ever heard.
Yeah, it is. The Donald Trump asking to be reimbursed for the money. That's like, man, you're supposed to look strong as your leader here. And a lot of people have been, it's just like, one thing about the Harris thing is that, the rallying around Harris, and it does show just how fucking weak and unlikable Donald Trump is, which is something that was always what I was leaning on when I said that Biden still had a shot. And it was not because of Biden, it's because Trump has a hard ceiling. And I think we've seen it. And the reason I think we saw it is because the assassination attempt pretty much did nothing. Like, his polls didn't change, at all. Nor did they change after the RNC. So it seems like the people who have chosen they're going to vote for Trump, they've exhausted it. They've drained that pool. There's no more. The only thing that could affect it is how many people are going to be voting for his opposition, which is where Biden hurt him, where Biden hurt himself, because, he went out there and showed that he couldn't think, and that scared people away. But what's weird about this too is when we talk about Trump and Harris, Biden, people have never loved Joe Biden more. This is a weird ending to this entire thing, because Biden had to be, a lot of people are saying that he's a national hero and shit like that. Look, all right, let's not go too far. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming from this. Let's not pretend that, if the noble thing would have been to do this last year, honestly, but to prevent this nightmare that we lucked into going pretty well. But the fact that people are just in love with Biden, like let's say he would have won his election this time and made it through the next 4 years, he still wouldn't be as loved as much as he is now because of what he just did. And seeing this, so that's kind of weird to see.
It is, but it's exactly what we've been arguing, that he runs and inevitably fails. He's seen as one of the worst presidents of all time. if he bows out, he gets the George Washington legacy. And George Washington was a good president, did a lot of good things, but he gets that, hey, the noble sacrifice for the good of the people. He gets that epitaph. And honestly, his presidency now, again, assuming Kamala wins.
So Harris wins, yeah.
But if she's a good president, it just sort of gives it back to him. And the history books might even, depending on how things go, the history books could basically almost forget Gaza.
They will. Gaza. Never know.
Well, it depends how everything cleans up. And it'll still be noted. But before it was like, oh, this is going to be number one thing that people talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, it'll be noted, but it's not going to be a big deal if everything kind of goes the way I do see it going.
Yeah, well, what I was saying about being so what happened now is in reality is Biden goes cocky. He overestimated his abilities. His team hid his cognitive decline from us, charged in, was embarrassed in front of millions of people, and had to shamefully withdraw from the race. But if Harris wins, what history is going to remember is that Biden withdrew from the race to give Harris the shot because he was old. The failure will slowly fade away. They will remember the heroism. And it's just odd that, Biden's legacy may go out that way. But back to the Republicans, I brought this, who is this? Stephen Miller. We all know Stephen Miller, don't we, folks? Stephen Miller he's probably the most racist person in Trump's circle, which is really saying something.
That is saying something.
That is a high
opposite of the world's tallest midget. It's like the world's tallest NBA player.
And so he was on Laura Ingram's show talking about this entire situation, and I shoot this shit right into my veins. I cannot get enough of this. Let me see.
Well, they're pretending it's all exciting, right? They're saying, this is exciting. No, it's chaos. You literally subverted your own democratic process as you spent the last 3.5 years, let's say 6 years. Or let's say 9 years, trashing Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Shit. That video didn't work. But anyway, that was Stephen Miller. I'll try to find it later. But Stephen Miller was talking to Laura Ingraham, and the entire time she asked him what he thinks. And did you ever see that clip, John?
Yeah, he's basically just sitting there crying. It's not fair. It's not fair. Oh my God.
He's yelling. He's like, they had a primary. They filled in the circles. They turned in the ballots. And he's literally just yelling. And Laura Ingraham says something that's very funny where she says, yeah, I looked at the polls and it seemed like at least 25 or 30% of the people who voted for Biden wanted him to stay in. They disenfranchised all those voters. Like, hold on. Wait, you know what you just said here? 75% of the voters wanted him to go, but you're worried about the 25% that wanted him to stay. Of course, they're not worried about them because, they don't know how this shit works anyway. But whenever I have, Republicans who act so concerned about the fact that democracy has been overturned, I kindly remind them that, buddy, we live in a republic, not a democracy. I love doing that. That's my favorite thing to do now, and telling them that and throwing it back in their face. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I don't know what to do with this.
It has been quite satisfying to do exactly that, TJ, because these are the same people who are constantly fighting me on the Electoral College, on the Senate, on all of our undemocratic institutions. And suddenly they are so clutching their pearls about, and here's the difference, an election not counting. It's not democracy, TJ. Elections are not democracy. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. But, Putin won an election. That doesn't mean he's the democratic will of the Russian people was to have Putin be their leader. Like that's not, elections don't always measure democracy. And it's very clear that the democratic will of the Democratic Party was for Joe Biden to step down. Sure, some people will be disenfranchised by that, but so that's how democracies work.
That's how democracy works.
Gets their way.
That's how democracy works. It's like when they argue that, it's what do they say? What's the stupid thing they say? That democracy is 3 wolves and 2 sheep deciding what to eat for dinner. And I was like, okay, well, what if it was 3 sheep and 2 wolves? You're still giving the 2 wolves the majority here. It doesn't make any sense. And And the argument Laura Ingraham said is one I've heard pretty much word for word, where they say, well, I don't like majority rule because I don't think that it's fair that 51% of the population gets to tell the other 49 what to do, as if it would be more fair if 49% could tell the 51 what to do. There's no actual thought that goes into this. They just know that they are a shrinking group of people, and a shrinking fucking weird group of people. This is what's made this so great. It's like I'm trying to like calm myself down here. I'm trying not to get wrapped up into this because it's fucking Kamala Harris. But it's just that she's way more normal than Joe Biden. Joe Biden 15 years ago was normal, but Joe Biden now is a weird old dude. But Kamala Harris now is a normal politician. Like that's exactly what you expect whenever you see someone in office. And you pit her up against Donald Trump and what's his name? Tim Burchett or JD Vance, just like the weirdest, creepiest people around, obsessed with immigration and birth rates and the percentage of the white population. You just let these people talk long enough, and it's like, oh yeah, that's fucking bizarre that any normal-ish person against them is going to get a massive upswell of support, which is exactly what has happened. And I just don't see that changing in the future. I just don't.
TJ, it's exactly what we've been saying.
Yeah.
We are so often right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And by we, I don't mean necessarily we. I mean the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Our biggest problem is that we're right too early, constantly over and over again. But we were so right about this. And it's so obvious now. It really sucks that so many people fought against this. But it should be so clear and obvious that, yeah, if you just run a normal, not super old person against these Looney Tunes, it's going to make the Looney Tunes look really bad. The only reason people are accepting of them is because you're not making them look bad. And that is actually, this is the crazy part, DJ. The messaging strategy that they're taking is, why are these guys being so weird?
Yeah, I love it.
They have
Why
changed their messaging like that. Where was this before?
Where was this?
It was because they couldn't reasonably say, why are these people being so weird while we're pushing Joe Biden into his car because he can't get it in himself. It's kind of hard to make that argument. But when you have a normal, competent person, that's just the way it is. I also have to say, because you mentioned this earlier about how people are like, oh, a black woman, it's going to be hard electorally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that, in certain areas of the country that'll be the case. But I feel like we learned the wrong lesson from Hillary. The lesson that people, I think, took from Hillary was, we aren't ready for a woman president. No, she's just weird too. Like she was incredibly weird. People didn't like her. She was unlikable. Kamala, thus far, I mean, she's got some weird things, but they're kind of in the normal, likable, weird. Like, you got to have something weird. Or
she's more endearing. She's more endearing. Yeah.
I just want to share this right here. Her. And again, I don't want to be like, oh, she's a woman, let's judge her outfit. But one thing that I always saw about Hillary, her dumb jumpsuits were so out of touch. And so just like, obviously that's what this type of person would wear. This outfit from her I was just like, wow, she looks like a president. It is striking. It is different. I'm not a fashion person, but I love whatever this is going on here.
Yeah,
she looked like a freaking president, whereas Hillary kind of looked like a weird, flashy jumpsuit, monochrome, bold color person that no one would actually ever wear this in a position of power. Kamala's nailing it. Every single thing about Kamala so far, it's just been knocking it out of the park. And everything that Biden and Hillary did wrong, she is doing right, and it's wonderful so far.
And with Harris and her communication style, it's been 3 days on the notable difference between Biden and Harris and how they're talking. Biden was always looking backward. Always. Every time he did a speech, he talked about, I'm the guy who put NATO together. I'm the guy who did this. I'm the guy who did that. And fine, you want to brag about your accomplishments, sure. But there was very little projection of just, and I hate to say this too, because it's something that bothers me, but it works in politics. You don't even need specificity when you're talking about your future aspirations, which is something that, people like Reagan and Obama were good at, that you don't see done. Trump, oddly enough, was good at it and getting his base fired up for, hey, this is the stuff that we have planned for the future here. And Harris's, her I guess is going to be our campaign slogan, because it worked when the "we're not going back" thing. Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was great. That was great. It was great. She nailed the execution. She said it. She repeated it. She pointed to the crowd. They started chanting it. It's just perfect. It was just I am pleasantly surprised at how well this has gone, because it could have gotten really bad. Could have gone really bad if they went to a contested primary and other Democrats going for each other's throats, going through a whole month of tearing each other apart, hurting feelings, fracturing alliances. This thing about the Democrats too is the Republicans have the luxury of the fact that 9 out of 10 Republicans are the exact same fucking person. It's like, your Republican is going to be a white Christian conservative, like almost all of them. And the Democrats, literally everyone else, everybody else that doesn't fit that. And, you have Black Americans, white Americans, Hispanic, Asian, Jewish, Muslim, LGBT, it's all these
you have Zionist hardline Jews from New York mixed with ultra left wing militant
like the queer community.
Like they don't mix. But
there's a lot of people with conflicting interests, and you have to herd these cats together. It's like, all right, look, we need to get ourselves in step and get in line here just for this time to accomplish this goal. It's not going to make everybody happy, but we can't let Trump and JD Vance try to run. Oh, and JD Vance, you mentioned last week about how horrible a pick JD Vance was, and it's gotten 10 times worse ever since then. Not only because Vance wasn't picked necessarily for his electoral advantage. He's from Ohio. Trump's going to win Ohio anyway, but it was for the money and everything. And because Trump thought he could, because Trump's like, okay, Biden's going to fall apart, so it doesn't really matter who I pick. I might as well pick this weirdo and give me some money. And now Biden's gone, and he's stuck with this weirdo. And did you see the speech he gave about him drinking the Diet Mountain Dew? Oh my God, that was, whoo, boy, yikes! I expected more than that from JD. I expect much, but and that was in his hometown. Like he bombed in his hometown. Ooh, it's gonna be a rough few months for old JD.
It's like TJ, to draw a sports analogy, and I do want to get to the questions that we have here because we have some interesting ones.
Oh yeah,
but I want to draw this analogy, and then I want to give an outline, a hope for the future, the best case scenario. I want to give that and energize people with it. But first, the sports analogy. It's like when you draft a new quarterback, and the future is wide open, right? And you have two teams who the first draft pick and the second draft pick. The Republicans, they drafted JD Vance. He immediately goes out, shits the bed, and throws 3 interceptions in his home opener. Kamala just competently drove the ball down the field.
Yeah.
She hasn't taken she hasn't flashed necessarily. I haven't seen her be like, oh my God, I love this. But she's just been competent, solid, and it's just a blank slate for the future. It could be Tom Brady. We know it probably isn't. But it could be Tom Brady. That's where Kamala is. And currently, the Republicans are like, oh God, we drafted Ryan Leaf. This is terrible. This is awful. And the comparison, it's so stark and stunning. Now,
it is.
I want to go down that could be Tom Brady road, because right now we don't know what's going to happen, and we might as well believe in the magic. And let me make this case, TJ. Let me see. I want to see how likely you think this is.
All right.
And I think I've said this before kind of on this show, but Kamala is objectively to the left of Biden. We not only have a better hand, but us as progressives should be excited that it's not going to be 4 more years of Biden, best case scenario. Best case scenario, it's 4 to 8 more years of Kamala Harris, and she's significantly more progressive. She supported universal health care. She supported universal pre-K. She was a big proponent of the child tax break. There's so many progressive policies that she has championed. Yeah, she's a cop. We can get to that in December. But overall, she's much better than Biden. And she's been a step to the left of Biden when it comes to Israeli policy the entire time. And gives us a pathway to things getting more, the Overton window shifting left and left and left. The economy is really coming into shape. If things continue to go well, we could see easily 8 years of Kamala Harris, and then followed by who's right there 8 years from now, AOC, the entire squad. They're going to be in prime position to take the presidency. We could seriously see 12 years of Democratic Party leadership from liberal moderates, followed by a much farther left progressive in the presidency. And it doesn't seem like that crazy of a scenario. It seems like that's incredibly in the cards right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. But am I crazy?
I don't know if you're crazy. I can't think that far because it's all about.
Got to be a Bene Gesserit here, TJ. We got to think in centuries.
It's just I can't. No, it's just that it's all about immediacy to me because I don't know exactly what a Harris president will look like. I can't say one way or the other. I do know, however, that she will not put conservatives on the Supreme Court, which is like my number one concern. I do know that she won't try to interact all the nonsense from Project 2025 or the Heritage Foundation. Sorry. I know that essentially the white supremacist movement that Donald Trump has emboldened the last 8 years is going to take a hit. And that's pretty much where I am right now. I'm still in the breathing a sigh of relief. I don't want to do it too early. Harris might still lose. Who knows? But that's what I was thinking about. That we have breathing room, and that has energized me. It's funny how they've been talking about Harris and that she's really gotten a lot of upswell support from Black women, which isn't a surprise, but it's from young people because she's a younger candidate. She's 60. I want to point that out, folks. She is 60. Well, she's 59. She's not.
59,
she'll be
59.
59. She'll be 60. She'll be 60 next year. But I mean, that's not old, I guess, but young is kind of strong. She's not, Mayor Pete or something, but
she's at normal president.
She's at normal president age. Yeah, she's at normal president age. And so that's, but that gap is still so massive. And it's just funny that they're talking about, energizing the young folks. But I don't know. I can't say one way or the other, like what's going to look like 8 years from now. Who knows? But I do know that the next 4 years are going to, and the important part about that is, we talk about how all the Republicans are essentially the same person. Like the vast majority of them are old. And so that 4 years from now, there's going to be fewer of them, which just makes it, that's always been what's really driven the rabid nature of the conservative movement these last few years, is that they can look at a demographics chart. They know what's up. They know that their population is literally dying. They know that they killed tons of them on their own during COVID, just killing off their own supply of voters. And every year they get fewer and fewer Republicans. So they need to subvert democracy even more, as much as they can, to try to hold on to power. And Trump losing, if he loses this election, they cripple that even more. So it's not even necessarily that I'm really convinced that any one of this administration is going to propel leftism forward. I think it's going to naturally grow about just because our numbers are going to grow and the Republicans are going to shrink. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Exactly. The demographic shift is coming. And when all of that money transitions down to the millennials, who are now way farther left than any previous generation was at this age, good things can very well happen. I for the first time in a long time, see a future where good things are possible, and it's wonderful to live in that moment.
It is. And this is what I mentioned too. I was talking about, I titled this something about the Republicans crying and stuff. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how they're trying to attack Harris. Because we mentioned before how they seem to be caught flat. Once again, how? How did you not have this play? Like you said, how was this playbook not written last year? It's like, hey, Joe Biden's 800 years old. He could die any day now. Mm-hmm. Let's put a list together of what we're going off Harris. And they apparently had one attack. Well, they had several, but one that was even remotely policy related, where they said, well, Joe Biden named her the border czar and the border's a disaster. And they had a hearing on it. Turns out she was never named the border czar. Turns out that never happened, which I didn't even know. I was buying the Republican talking points. I thought she was, but of course it was Mayorkas. I mean, who they already impeached, but she was just doing like study on it. She wasn't in charge of anything. And and that was their one shot they had in the chamber, and it's gone. The rest of it is she's black. Or she's not black. They say that too. They say them both, that, she slept her way to the top, which I'm not the first person to say this, that, listen, I don't know anything about Kamala Harris's past. I'm going to assume she didn't sleep her way to the top, but if she did, good for her. That's what I got to say to that. You're
telling me Bill Clinton didn't sleep his way to the top too?
Fuck you guys. You're up there you care about sexual impropriety. You're Donald Trump isn't a literal adjudicated rapist. That's what you're worried about with Kamala Harris or her past. And when Donald Trump, remember, this is years ago, 2015 when he first ran, and they said, well, Trump probably cheats on his taxes. What did all the Republicans say? They say, good for him. If he can cheat on his taxes and get away with it, I support him. So look, if she did, fine by me. I'm not even saying it happened, but just all their arguments are just racism and misogyny. That's it. That's all they have going for them. And folks, I don't think that's going to win over a lot of voters that aren't already voting for you. That's a weird strategy you're going with there.
It's honestly the Democrats jokingly were like, what are you going to do? Attack her for being a woman and being a minority? And then the Republicans are like, that's exactly what we're going to do. And the Democrats are like, okay, let's go ahead and cook. Let's see how this goes for you. Because it's just like we said earlier, they're being weird.
They are.
Speaker Johnson had to tell Republicans in a meeting, congressional Republicans, grown-ass adults, hey guys, stop talking about Kamala's race. Can you imagine having to tell that to a grown adult? That, even if you're racist, I at least expect you to be quietly racist.
Right,
Not being outwardly racist. What are you doing? You're a politician. But it's become so normalized in the Republican Party, the whole DEI. We have congressmen, not just normal people, not just random Twitter influencers. Congressmen saying Kamala Harris is a DEI president. It's no, again, I'm not a huge Kamala fan, but you can't make that argument when the guy you're voting for never held office before becoming president. Ever. Not one time. He had zero experience. If anyone was a DEI hire, it was Donald freaking Trump. But DEI doesn't mean what it even means to these people. It just is a replacement for a word that rhymes with trigger. And
yeah, right. Exactly.
It's so clear. And it's really getting to the point where I'm actually surprised that people are attacking that word as a racial epithet in the way it really should be attacked. I mean, I don't know. Maybe segments of Twitter I'm not part of are very upset about it, but it seems normalized to an extent that it really shouldn't be, because it's such a clear, and it's not even a dog whistle. It's just a straight up racial attack at this point.
Yeah. And the argument that they put forth with Harris being a DEI selection is Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick a black woman to be my vice president, and that he did this to appeal to black women. And look, that's the job of the vice president, to, one of the jobs to bring in certain populations. But get this, someone tell me, why did Barack Obama choose Joe Biden to be his vice president? It was for the exact same reason. It was for the opposite reason. It's hey, we need old white people who may not trust this young black guy to be president, so we're going to pick Joe Biden. I've never heard anyone refer to Joe Biden as a DEI vice president. I had never heard it. That just, oddly enough, it doesn't apply when it's a white man. It only seems to apply to minorities, even though it's the exact same thing. So you're correct. This is all about, I don't even know who this, so I've heard, the funny thing is, you mentioned, what's his name, Mike Johnson, telling the Republicans, hey, stop doing the racial stuff. But what's even funnier is they haven't stopped. They've told Mike Johnson to go fuck himself. They keep doing it. It's the only language they know. I say, who is this person here? This is Hageman. Man, I don't know her name. I don't even know this congresswoman here, but they asked her about Kamala Harris, and here was her response. Let's see what she has to say.
Well, I think she's one of the weakest candidates I've ever seen in the history of our country. I mean, intellectually, just really kind of the bottom of the barrel. And from the standpoint of just who she is and the policies, the positions that she's taken, her failure to do anything in terms of the border or that sort of thing, I think it's just a failure from top to bottom. I think she was a DEI hire, and I think that that's what we're seeing. And I just don't think that they have anybody else. I just think that they're in real disarray.
So, I'm kind of with you here, John, in that even if you are a racist, you kind of got to know when to be racist and when not to be racist. And when there's a microphone and a camera in front of you, that's when you couch the racism and you bury it as much subtext as possible. And they can't seem to pull it off. They just can't.
It's weird. It's weird that this is where we are. And it's honestly beneficial. I think you know what it reminds me a lot of, TJ? It reminds me a lot of how kind of the opposite thing happened on the left, where you had, let's call them the PC police, get extremely militant about identity politics. And you had a backswing on that. You had a negative reaction to that on the right. And it did hurt the Democratic Party, the obsession with identity politics. Well, now we're just on the other side of the pendulum swing. And that pendulum is starting to come back. And all of this far-right DEI hired bullshit is going to hurt them, and they don't know how to stop it. And they won't be able to stop it for a couple years now if we judge by the Democrat. The Democratic Party has finally, I think 2020 showed them, hey, just stop kneeling with one of those I forget what they're called.
The kente cloths.
The kente cloth. Yeah. It doesn't look good. And they did kind of take the hint and have gotten better at it. And I think we're seeing the exact opposite thing play out on the Republican Party side right now. I don't know if you see the comments or not. Mark just said grumble on Wednesday. We answer questions. We should totally get to some of these questions.
Right.
So just for context, guys, before we get to this, I just want to say TJ won't be here tomorrow. So this is our opportunity to chat about this. And so we have kind of taken that over. But this is our audience engagement show, TJ.
Yeah. All right. So we have the return of an old favorite, Matt Powell official. I feel like we haven't seen him in a month or two. That's kind of crazy. Him. Yeah, fellas, do either of you know Vice President Harris's stance on evolution? First off, when you're putting an apostrophe on a word that ends with an S, you end with the apostrophe. That's how that goes. Matt Powell official. I'm not a pedant usually when it comes to grammar and shit like that, but Matt Powell official kind of seems like an asshole, so I don't feel I don't feel too bad about it. The answer is no. I don't know her position, but she is a college graduate and an attorney, so I imagine she acknowledges that biology or evolution through natural selection, mutation over time is, supported by all of science. It is the foundation of modern medicine and modern biology. Nothing we have that solved it, that's cured any modern diseases would work at all if we didn't understand how evolution works. So, yeah, that is weird to be 2024 and having people still argue about evolution. That's weird. That's like a 2008 thing.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Biden is the greatest American hero for dropping out of the race, or the biggest hero the entire world has ever known. I think we covered that one, didn't we, John?
Yeah, I don't think he's either necessarily. But again, if Kamala Harris wins, he's going to this is going to go down as a George Washington move. He's going to go down as a hero. A greatest ever, I don't know, but he's going to be, you look at the economic impact he's made, with a couple foreign policy exceptions, the history book will be written well for him if
it will. It will. Yeah. It's God. I like the idea of Donald Trump losing 2 elections in a row. That's very funny. We're counting our chickens for they hatch here. Who knows? Anything could happen.
I'm waiting to do the victory laps, but
I know.
I'm preparing for them, DJ.
I honestly, this is going to sound insane to say. I know. I haven't. It's not the same. It's not the same. But I'm saying I haven't seen anything near this enthusiasm since Barack Obama, which is insane. And I'm not saying Harris is at the same level, because it's not. Barack Obama was like a global phenomenon that shattered everything we knew about politics. That's not what's going on here. But we haven't had anything approaching that since Obama ran for office. We didn't have it with Clinton. We didn't have it with Biden. And the just knowing that this monster, Donald Trump, could actually, once again, be beaten easily if the Democrats just made a decent decision for once in their lives. And let's see. Or was the greatest American universe hero strong-armed out of the race, or is TJ changing his handle to Biden gave up power voluntarily? You can too. That's a little wordy, a little wordy. So this is interesting. I've actually heard people talk about this, in that, was Biden forced out, or did he surrender power voluntarily? The answer is both, honestly. Biden was operating under the illusion that he could still win. He was looking at, polling data, because the polling data we see isn't the same as the polling data the politicians see. Like these polling companies, they do their best, but if you're working for someone, you can laser target the shit exactly where you need it to have a better grasp of what's going on. And so Biden's people were telling him, oh, yeah, this is still looking pretty good. We still got better than even odds. But the deep internal polling that they had, they were keeping from him, which is, I find that odd. I don't know why you would do that. And
TJ, I know the answer.
What's that?
Because the people who were keeping it from him, job depended on Biden being the president. As soon as Biden's the president, so for them, if Biden drops out, they've already lost.
Yeah,
so that's probably why.
True. And once he was faced with reality, and Nancy Pelosi said, "Oh, first the donors." That's when you knew it was over. That's like when I saw an article saying that donors had withheld $90 million unless Biden leaves. I was like, all right, this is happening, because you can't win the president. And then I remember talking about this, and people would say, "Oh, so you think it's cool that donors just get?" And listen. The argument is not about whether or not donors should be able to do this, because we're living in the real world where they can't. I'm not interested in arguing these hypotheticals. This is how it is. If you want to win the presidency, you need hundreds of millions of dollars. And if Biden loses $90 million just like that, he's going to lose more. So that's when you started to tell.
TJ, not to mention that the people making that argument are not for getting rid of the donors. Like, it's a totally disingenuous argument. They don't want to overturn Citizens United. They don't want to take money out of politics. They oppose that tooth and nail. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So Biden was going to stick around. I think he stuck around until they're like, buddy, it's not going to happen. You have a 1 in a million chance of winning, not winning, but you have a very small chance of winning this. And, just switching the candidate right now would only work in our favor. It's a gamble. So I don't think Biden is Cincinnatus or anything, stepping down from his Roman dictatorship. I just think that he finally saw the writing on the wall, and I guess they couldn't force him to do it. But when you start taking away everything he has, what else is he going to do?
Agreed.
All right, and last one, seriously. Trump is running from the center. Clearly he is. Will Kamala run from the left or center? All right.
I reject the premise of this argument.
Yeah. Same. Go ahead. You go first. Go ahead.
So Trump is not running from the center. Like, I don't even understand why you say clearly he is, because
I think I know what he's saying.
Unless you think that, like, I don't know, Congress is left of center on average. Like, there are clear and obvious Republicans who are to the left of Donald Trump. For example, Mitt Romney. So unless you're going to claim Mitt Romney is left of center in American politics, then I don't see how you can make the argument that Donald Trump is running from center.
I think I know what he's saying real quick, John, is that, like, Trump, like, his policies aren't center, but he is presenting himself more centrist. Like, he's dialing back the abortion language. He's not embracing Project 2025. It's just like the last couple of months, and we've talked about how he's trying to hide from the farther right extremes. We don't believe him, but he knows the optics on this. I think that's what Mark's trying to say.
That's fair. And I mean, again, I'll take that. I do still think even his toned back version is still far right of center. I mean, I don't think centrists argue for mass deportation. Like, that's just not something centrists do. But, and Mark said, thank you, TJ. So I do think you got that interpretation right. But I do like the question in general of, will Kamala run more center or more left? And I've been kind of tossing this one around in my brain as to what she should do, because she has one shot to nail this. And that was her problem in the primaries, is she flip-flopped and couldn't find footing. And it shouldn't be hard to find footing, but once she picks something, she has to stick with it. Will she run on more progressive populist policies? I think she should avoid talking about Israel she should just not say what her policy is going to be until after the election. But like, I don't know. Do I want her running progressive? I don't know. I haven't really made a decision on that. What do you think? Like, do you think it's?
I think that there are certain...
at least run to the left of Biden. You know what I mean? Like, is that strategic?
There are certain things. So she already did something like that. Like, she wouldn't meet with Netanyahu, and that's already.
The anti-Israel dog whistling from her has been very loud and clear. I have gotten the message, and I don't need her to say anything more.
Yeah, and so she's already doing something like that. I think she could, like, for example, the Medicare for all thing, or at least, doing something to shore it up. If she comes out with something like that early while her popularity is still high, she can kind of ride with it. I think the longer she waits on it, the less likely the people, because this is the honeymoon period for her right now. Basically, people are like, oh my God, finally we have this hope that we can defeat Trump. And they can't go along with everything she wants immediately and then try to get some more people on her side. But I would tell her, just like, because then again, I'm looking at it through my vision, not anyone else's, that there's a lot of really popular progressive policies. Just throw them out there. I have a hard time believing that happens, because it never does. And so I don't know. But when we were talking about hitting this the centrist button here, did you see what Aaron Sorkin said? That his recommendation. Let me see.
Yeah. It was the day Biden dropped out.
Yes, it's you. So if you guys didn't know, the creator of The West Wing, Aaron Sorkin, he wrote this article saying how the Democrats should nominate Mitt Romney. Now, what's funny about this, well, to me at least, is I saw this, it was this weekend, you said. When I saw the headline, I thought he was saying the Democrats should nominate Mitt Romney for vice president. But no, he said president. And so I never felt more vindicated, because I've always shit on the West Wing. I have always dunked on this liberal illusion that, you can just smooth talk your way into embarrassing conservatives who have no shame at all. And you can compromise and get some sweet. That's the genius brain that wrote The West Wing, that Mitt Romney should run. And it's funny too. It also says stuff like in there it mentioned, does he support reproductive rights? No. Is he a staunch advocate for the Palestinian people? No. Basically, you would get nothing, like nothing at all, if we nominated Mitt Romney, and that's the genius brains we're working with here. So yeah, thanks for that.
Aaron Sorkin gets a lot of flack because he is just the political cartoon version of a liberal moderate who absolutely hates themselves and doesn't know how to govern. Like, that was, if the Onion wrote that headline, Aaron Sorkin says, that I would have just been like, oh, that's a good Onion article.
It would.
But
oh my God,
was real life.
Yes.
But I always go to bat for Aaron Sorkin, because he gets so much flack for his political nonsense and his ideological absurdity, that people say he's a very good writer. He's one of the best writers of dialogue we have. And I just want to go to bat for him from a writing perspective. He's very good. His politics are just stupid as hell. And it's unfortunate.
This is I can't segue well into this. I wrote it in my notes. I forgot to mention it. I was just still yelling at people who've been castigating us ever since the debate, that I want a loud and public apology from everyone who said, listen, stop talking about the debate. You guys are just feeding into the media narrative. And this is like a problem with liberals. This is what I'm talking about liberals, like what they're doing incorrectly is they don't understand politics. I guess it's not I don't know why I said that so emphatically. We all know this. They don't get it, because what we saw from the debate is liberals think that you win at politics when you're like technically correct, when what you say actually matches reality. And that's it. That like it's a paper test you fill out. I said, no, it's a hell of a lot more than that. Presentation is probably most of it. Being able to communicate your opinions, being affable, being able to rally up a crowd, being able to get people to follow you. And like, once again, all respect to Kamala Harris, who has just impressed the hell out of me the last year. I proven me wrong and stuff that I said 2 or 3 years ago about her. I mean, I wasn't wrong back then, but she's just very different now. And it was just like, it just seems so obvious that Biden wasn't able to do this anymore. Right? He wasn't. It was cruel to pretend that he could try. On what basis is Harris competent? I don't know what he was talking about then.
We said Harris is competent, and you know what? I think Philip's coming at this from the right. But
how do you get
here? There is arguments to be made that she ran a pretty incompetent campaign in 2020.
Oh, of course,
which is true. She run a good campaign. She was pretty incompetent. I don't think that matters because she's running against, again, and I hate to continue to beat this dead horse, someone who booked a press conference at Four Seasons Landscape, someone who spent the last 4 years knowing that there was probably 30% chance he'd run against Kamala Harris, and that might be a little high 4 years ago, but still, at least in the past month, it's been a 30% chance, and has nothing, didn't prepare at all for it, just is whining that it's not fair. This is who she's running against. Do I think she can clear that bar of competence? Do I think she can be more competent than Biden, who took a question about abortion and transitioned it to immigration? Yes. If that's the bar for competence, Kamala Harris has it in spades. And what we've seen for the past couple days, at least, she might be better than that, folks. I don't know. It's too early to tell, but early signs, she's showing flashes of remarkable competence.
I would say that Kamala Harris's competence, if we're comparing her to Donald John Trump, is that she has shown herself a lot more competent in avoiding indictments. I mean, that seems to be a pretty good thing right there. She's avoided what, 91 fewer indictments, 34 fewer convictions, or 35 fewer convictions, 34 for falsifying documents, 1 for raping somebody. And to my knowledge, she has 0 trips on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. So that seems to be, I like her odds there, that are you going to vote for the guy who was on Epstein's plane 7 times or someone who was never on the plane? I don't know. That's and of course you said
defense though, she hasn't won the club championship for
my God,
her own country club.
That's right. That's right. There you go. That's true.
That's one in one in Trump's quiver here.
Another thing with Harris is like this lie that I've heard pushed around for years now, that she locked up thousands of black men in California. I remember hearing that a long time ago, but I don't know if you saw this, but it turns out it was like 40. It was like 40 people that would. So a lot of lies spread about Harris over time. And you're right. He is coming from the right here, because I remember this comparison talking about which quarterback more like Colin Kaepernick. Of course. I just you right wingers never let us down. You never do. I don't know how it is, but you guys always find a way to lower past our expectations. And I'll give you a TJ pass.
That was for not answering
TJ.
Okay. So Mark, we hope you're satisfied. We got through the questions. But my favorite comment, maybe of all time, coming from Charles here. I hereby apologize for thinking that you should have stopped talking about the debate. I was wrong. Charles, you're a better man than many. Most people have just ignored the fact that they've been telling us we're assholes for a month now. Like, everyone turned on a dime, TJ. And again, I have the list, and I'm not going to run my victory lap until Kamala wins.
Yeah, right.
But oh my God, I'm going to be an insufferable person in late November, when all I'm doing is Will fucking Stancil. I'm gonna put his head on a goddamn spike. Do you know Will Stancil?
Wait, no, is that the right stuff guy?
No, he's like the final boss of Lib Twitter.
Oh boy,
like he runs. He's like a state rep, or he's running for state rep, and he has like decent. He's one of those people who he really pisses you off because he has like good analysis, but just like comes to the wrong conclusions a lot. And just like he used to be like, oh, Biden's too old, and he has flip flopped on that, and then just has not even like said, "Oh, guys, I was wrong. It's clearly I was very wrong. I shouldn't have been so aggressive about this." And I cannot wait. Cannot wait. He doesn't know who I am, but I want to make him know who I am so badly.
You know what I just thought of? I just thought of on Joe Biden's Twitter. So like, it's always bothered me that a lot of politicians don't run their own social media. And I mean, you can't. They probably have 10 social media accounts. I understand it. But it's just because, like, I see stuff on Joe Biden's Twitter page, like, oh, Joe Biden did not write this. This doesn't sound anything like him. Trump, I can tell when he writes his stuff. Trump writes his stuff like 80% of the time. And it's only not his when it's an actual cogent sentence, you know.
It's always so clear and obvious.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is someone who speaks English actually wrote this one. And but what's funny about Joe Biden's thing is Joe Biden's social media team did not know he was, or at least they weren't acting like it. Like, there's tweets on Joe Biden's account like a couple of hours before he announced he was stepping down, and it's like, Joe Biden stepped down on National Ice Cream Day. Did you see that? Yeah, and so people were like, oh, it's Ice Cream Day. We're going to go all in for Joe. Donate to Joe's campaign. And like 15 minutes later, steps down. It's like, bro, Joe Biden couldn't have told them, hey, lay off on the post for a little while. Just a little bit there. So I just imagine how heartbroken these people, because remember last time we talked about people who we suspected were like getting paid by, you've seen the emails. Hey, you want to join the Democrats? And I was like, okay, I know what's going on here. And now I know who was being paid by the Democrats, because they were just like ignoring all of logic and saying, no, Biden's he's got it together. It was just a bad debate. And how quickly they've had to turn. And they've had to like really jump through hoops. It's like, oh, listen, we knew Biden had this down the whole time. That was just his master plan. It's like, man, I couldn't look myself in the mirror, bro. I couldn't do it.
It's
oh shit.
It's crazy. But yeah, what's your oh shit?
Oh, it's 7:45.
Yeah, the time.
Oh
the time.
Yeah.
But no, that brings us nicely to our conclusion here, TJ. We're as you what did you sign off with? Mamala's or Kamala?
Kamala's our Mamala. Kamala's our Mamala.
Kamala's our Mamala, guys. It's been a long day. But what are we talking about? Or by we, I mean me.
I won't talk about anything. I don't know.
I just want to preview. So I want to talk about Kamala still. I want to talk about more looking, because we talked about a lot the past week. I want to look forward with Kamala. I want to talk about VP picks. And do a little rundown. I want to talk about the Republican reaction, and I want to talk about Netanyahu's address to Congress today, which we didn't even touch.
I know, right?
But did you have any takes on that you want to get off your chest?
No, what I wanted to fire up real quick was Elon. Elon was donating money to Trump. Do you see that? That was he pledged $45 million a month to Trump, and Trump went out in public and said it. And Elon's like, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I love this whole thing with and like Vance. I think Vance is worth another segment too, because he's just so weird, and there's stuff that's connecting him to this and how it's all falling apart, and how Trump is apparently regretting that pick. But I don't know. There's a lot talking about. But I'm gonna be gone for a conference the next couple of days, folks. I gotta leave pretty soon, actually. But I just realized this. Oh no! But we appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Oh.